If you want to leave it green.
Oh, I got, dude. I got.
Countdown.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our school board workshop for April 12th, 2022. We have all members are present, and Melissa Snively is on Teams, and she will also be available. Today, we're going to talk about a lot of our unique financial challenges our district faces today, and Superintendent Davis will talk about how we can engage the community and some solutions to ensure that our students are receiving a world-class education, as well as making sure we provide the support that is needed for our teachers, our faculty, and staff in Hillsborough County Public Schools. And I will hand that over, and as well as Mr. Porter will be taking names today to ensure to see who will be speaking in what order, and I'll hand that over now today to Superintendent Davis. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Combs. Really appreciate it. And today, this will be kind of a partnership in the collaboration related to this presentation. Mr. Connor will be actively involved, and at any particular time, Ms. Johnson will be involved as well, just to talk about our finances and to really talk about what may be needed as we move forward as a school district. But overall, the objectives are to really explore the current and future finances of Hillsborough County Public School District and some of the challenges that we face, financially, and then being able to talk about what we have to do in order to create the greatest priorities for our students and for our workforce in order to create a world-class education and what that will look like over the next 4 years. And then finally, being able to seek a pathway forward to identify proactive solutions for us as a school district in an effort to ensure that we have a high-quality education for every one of the students that we serve and future students that we will serve as well. Today we are, we've talked about it over the last 2 years. We've faced many challenges in our school district, and each of you and our staff members have been resilient as they continue to be able to work constantly and consistently to help our students thrive not only inside the classroom but outside the classroom as well. But there's a number of challenges that we face not only from a local perspective but nationally as well. The first one is making certain that we have adequate funding within our school district and ensuring that we have the funding that we need to have and meet all the operating expenses in order to make certain we have a thriving educational system in Hillsborough County. This is not just unique to us in Hillsborough County, but throughout the entire state as well. Another challenge that we have is that we are continually have disruption in the learning environment as we are recognizing and realizing a teacher shortage not only locally but throughout the nation as well. And this is not only for teachers, but it also is for administrators and support staff in education. And we have to start thinking differently about what proactive steps that we can and will take in order to make certain that we have a stronger, longer bench of employees that are primed or ready and willing and have the skill set to be able to serve children every single day in Hillsborough County. And then also we have to continue to fight and continue to identify insufficient funding for enrichment activities within our school district. We always talk about how we want our students to be actively involved in co-curricular and extracurricular activities, but we are constantly trying to find funding that we are not categoricalized giving, or it's not in our FEFP, to be able to expand performing arts, visual arts, at the same token making certain that our students are continued to have actively and physically engaged in physical activity with art, music, and PE. And then also really trying to find additional funding to redesign, to model, to keep up with our workforce development. And working every single day that we ensure that we have a cohort of students who have and journey down a pathway that allows them to go to the workforce immediately within our community and have a thrive in ways that allows them to be able to compete economically within Hillsborough County. So these are the challenges that we face. And for us as a school district, we have to be able to create and make change in an effort to be able to ensure we are providing not only equity within our schools that we serve, but also equity throughout the state and having equitable opportunities for our students to compete throughout this nation. And then financial landscape. When we look at where we are financially, Hillsborough County ranks 45th out of 67 school districts in the state of Florida as it is identified through our FEFP program. That's the Florida Educational Finance Program. And in order to participate in the FEFP, we have to levy local millages and taxes, and at the same token be able to receive any state funding to be able to compete. But when you break that down, and I'll show a couple slides as we transition, we are really competing at the lower side of the state related to the amount of money that we generate from our school district. In addition to that, we see inflation over the last 15 years has skyrocketed, and it has not kept up with the finances that we have received from a local level or a state level. And this is a problem to make certain that we maintain services, adequate services for our students, and making certain that we give the necessary sufficient resources to our teachers and our leaders every single day to create that world-class education we speak of often. And if you look at the state of Florida, why I have to give hats off to what's happened the last 2 years. And this year was a good financial year from the state of Florida, where additional money was put on the basic student allocation. There was more money put on early educators and also veteran educators. There was more money put in categoricals this year with the funding model. But we have to recognize and realize that we still rank 45th nationally when it comes to being able to identify what we get per pupil funding. And that's a ways to go. And you know, we'll see in a little bit where we were back in 1998 to where we are now. And we have to have a full court press to be able to move legislators to double down and put more money into school districts so that we can continue to make certain we have proper education for our children. And then finally, being able to look at surrounding counties. Surrounding counties have went out because there's a need to be able to find additional revenue streams to be able to address any voids or any gaps that may exist in order to properly incentivize their workforce, and at the same token make certain that all of the school improvement needs, all the programmatic needs, all of our resources are really put in a consistent, equitable manner in order to be successful within our school district. When we talk about, we talked about the comparison from the national perspective. This just really shows us where we were when you look at EdWeek Research Center, and this is through our quality counts, report that comes out annually. In 1998, we ranked 27th nationally about where funding was put and where funding was doubled down on in education. When you look at where we are in 2020, from the last report that was reported, we are identified as 45th. And as you see, that as inflation continues to spike, our funding in education has continued to take a downward spiral, understanding that healthcare is really the foundation of where funding is put in the first place, and education is second to the healthcare movement. And we talk about inflation, and we use this chart from what has occurred in inflation from a national perspective. I use 2007 because this is the year that we received the most money in our FAFP, around $7,100 since 2016-2017. But we look at over a 15-year span, we see there is inflation has increased by over 32% nationally in the last 15 years. And when you look at the inflation, what has happened over the last 15 years, 32%, and we realize what is happening to us when you look at the funding, full-time equivalency funding per pupil, we see that we've only recognized a 7.93%, and that's a major gap from 32% inflation nationally to and we've only received from our FEF process a 7.9% increase. There comes a major gap to be able to serve our children. And if you look what's happened in the last year in the Hillsborough-Tampa region, we have recognized that we have had the inflation rate has increased 6.81% in the last calendar year, which once again puts a lot of stressors for us to be able to keep our employees in our local region. I've talked to a number of teachers and support staff that are living in surrounding counties and having to transition into the Hillsborough area. And at the same token, we have a number of individuals, employees that are moving out of the city of Tampa due to the exacerbated cost to be able to live in that particular area. And as we look at revenue streams, this is a comparison of the Big Five, and the Big Five inclusive of Hillsborough County, and we also added Pinellas. So we can really show you what we generate related to the FEFP system, which is the Florida Educational Finance Plan. In order to participate in that, we have to levy our local millage and local taxes, which is about 1/3 of our finances. And you take that FEFP process of what we generate from the state formula, and you're able to look in the next, which is the third column, which is our unweighted FTE, which is our enrollment. And you divide the FEFP to our basic enrollment, and it gives us identified our per pupil funding. And as you can see, when you look at the 5 big districts, and also we add Pinellas, because they are a surrounding county that has some of the similar demographics to what we have related to all the surrounding counties. They're the most similar to us. We are identified as the lowest school district in comparison, receiving the lowest FEFP per pupil funding. When you look at the last two columns looks at a holistic approach for revenue. This is inclusive of FEFP, local millage, PICO. This is inclusive of capital funding, capital outlay, additional revenue streams. You can see once again that Hillsborough County, out of the Big Five in Pinellas County, we generate the less compared to all of them. And if you look at the per pupil funding, once again, we are the lowest as recognized. And this is where we have to be able to identify how we can find proactive solutions to find additional funding to be able to compete from a local perspective, due to the fact that a gap is a reality. And in this process, we see that we want to recognize where our budget is unpacked. When you look at a holistic view of our budget, 89% of our budget is committed to salaries and benefits of our employees. And then, less than 10% is identified in multiple areas related to purchase services, which this could be contracts. We're looking at energy efficiency with the services. This is all about utilities and light. When you look at water, materials and supplies, capital outlay projects through operations, and we look at other. And other is basically our internal accounts that we give to our schools. This is connected to any professional development, any certifications, any particular travel, athletics, all safety, security, uniforms, safety, security, supplies, as we break out our budget and then transfer, and then funding is transferred out, which makes up. And we may say that, this is a large number at 89%, but I will show you in a slide, in a couple slides through this presentation, where we have worked diligently to be able to reduce staff within this school district, and that can be validated through a number of resources. One thing we continue to ask is, I get in the community, well, at Addison we talk about finances, what's happened to the lottery funding? And 20, 30 years, 25 years ago, there was a great concept to be able to put additional funding into our schools. Lottery funding really helps our families with bright futures. But when we talk about what we realize and receive from a school district, we have not received funding from the lottery since 2020. This is a major, this is a line item. This is a sample document. I know it's not clear in this presentation, but hopefully it's clearer in the PowerPoint, that recognizes all the itemized and categoricals that we get from the FEFP program initiative and plan. And in there you'll see that we've received $0 in that process, and that we would love to have that money, but we just don't receive that money to date since 2020. And then, we talk about the Great Resignation. There's an article that came out in the last couple of weeks that really recognized that Florida has over 4,000 instructional vacancies, meaning that if you do the math, that's around 84,000 students that aren't being served by a high qualified certified teacher. And then in this article, it talks about how over the last 2 years, since 2019, from a national perspective, we have 567,000 less teachers that are transitioning into education. And as we move through this article, the article identified that at the end of the year, we would recognize close to 9,000 vacancies in the state of Florida, which is historical numbers, and it's significantly alarming within our school district. And we talk about Hillsborough County, we have close to around 400 instructional vacancies and over 500 support staff vacancies, meaning that we have a number of our teachers doing double duty, a number of our instructional coaches doing double duty, our administrators doing double duty. We have district staff that are being deployed to our schools to be able to serve children. And then we are really exhausting every avenue that we have to be able to keep high qualified, skilled employees in front of our students so they can compete. We know this year has been majorly disruptive. If we look at other comparable school districts, I know a school district that is smaller than us that has realized close to 700 instructional vacancies. So this is just not unique to Hillsborough County, but it's across the state and across this nation. So all this to say is that we have to be able to do something different and be able to find additional revenue streams in order for us to compete with surrounding counties, and also to be able to show value to every one of our employees. We recognize that 10% of cost of living has increased 10% since 2019, and that's putting a lot of stressors on our employees as well. And that we see that student enrollment continues to rise within our school district, and it's going to have a greater impact of us making certain that we find enough qualified, skilled employees to be able to serve our children within our school district. So that crisis is a reality. And when you look at the experience from us compared to the Big Five, we see that Hillsborough County and Orange County we're losing our seasoned and experienced teachers. Which is this is no knock in any way, shape, or form about the early adopters or early educators within our school district, but being able to have those who have experience, who understand the scope and sequence of their content, who understand pedagogy, who understand how to gain access to community and students, It brings rich historical perspectives to be able to help our children, and we've got to find a way to be able to keep our valued instructors who have been here, in Hillsborough County to serve every single day, to be able to coach new instructors about how to be able to continue to do great things. And we're recognizing the flee out of our transformation network. We're trying to keep all of our teachers that we can to properly incentivize them within our school district. Another challenge that we face is trying to find enrichment activities and trying to find sufficient funding to be able to address art, music, and physical education. This is not a categorical that we receive from in our FAFP state funding. This is something that we have to figure out internally, related to time on task, related to offering specials within our school district. And as we see this, we know that we see teachers that are having to go over and beyond to find proactive solutions to raise money, related to whether they want to go to any type of field trips, any type of competitions. They are fundraising left and right to be able to make certain that the art and music programs are whole and that children do have a great experience inside and outside of our school district. And they shouldn't have to go and continue to do those things. And then we know that through our staff allocation model, we do not have sufficient funding to be able to serve kindergarten within our school district. And that's been where kindergarten teachers are taking the blunt of being able to serve art, music, and physical education every single day. Every student in our schools deserve to have these type of opportunities on a scheduled special by qualified staff within our school district. And we're fighting to be able to make certain that happen. And then also we talk about repairs and to our equipment. We want to make certain that our students have a chance to not only be actively engaged and involved in art, music, physical education classes, but they also have all of the equipment and materials they need in order to compete and be successful and really connect to their true passions. And then also we hear from a lot of our high schools about feeder pattern programs related to band and music, about chorus, strings, orchestras, bands. We need to be able to offer these initiatives in every single one of our middle schools, so this becomes a reality within our school district, only fair to children to be able to compete. With this said, this is some of the equipment that we see and that we recognize. We have partnerships, though, that we try to maximize to bring in revived instruments and equipment, but we've got to find additional funding sources to be able to allow our children to have the best and the newest equipment within their schools, within their classrooms. And then the last thing we talk about, what can we do from workforce development? We have to be able to move forward to show that we are working and providing opportunities for our students to be able to stay and transition to a workforce in the Tampa region, and also how that has a significant positive economic impact within our community. And we continue to be able to show and look at new careers through our workforce development initiatives, where our children feel that they can prosper every single day and that they can come alive outside of core content classes with pathways to allow them and lead them to be successful. Therefore, through our innovation shop, we have worked with the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity to identify major areas and thriving wages that our students can compete immediately after high school, especially through the medical lens and also through the construction lens. Medical is a perfect timing related to where we are with COVID and the immediate need. And at the same token, as Hillsborough County continues to be in Tampa, continues to be identified as a top 3 location in the nation that continues to expand and grow for growth and development, we see that construction will need to take place consistently. So, being able to identify the jobs and offer these jobs within our school district, hence the reason that we are going to offer coming soon a restructure of two of our high schools and also of our technical facilities to be able to meet the growing demands of our needs identified with the Florida Department of Economics and Workforce. And workforce education, what this really does for us economically, it really brings back a sense of hope and inspiration to our community. Being able to make sure we ignite students to get them to stay linked to our traditional schools or our pathways that we offer, and we strengthen them. And also we have the duty and the responsibility is to allow them to interact with the state-of-the-art facilities, and not having proper revenue streams to be able to do that just doesn't allow our students to compete not only at a local level, but a state and national level as well. and then being able to bring in local partnerships to be able to identify our equipment, our curriculum, our content, our materials, to strengthen that work, to be able to create that pipeline immediately so that we have local resources that will lead them to be successful. So today is about our recommendation. My recommendation as superintendent is for us to reach consensus and to adopt a resolution to add to the ballot for language to increase a 1 mil increase during the August 23rd, 22 primary election. This will allow us to really focus on multiple facets to be able to recruit and retain high quality staff within our school district, to be able to expand the enrichment opportunities, to focus on our workforce, and to make certain that our students have the sufficient necessary state-of-the-art equipment and infrastructures in order to be successful within our school district. The ballot language is in front of you today in the PowerPoint. I want you to recognize that the first two statements in the ballot are statutorily required, which really identifies Hillsborough County's ability to levy a 1 mil. The next 1, 2, 3 points, the next two statements are all about the areas of focus. Areas of focus being related to recruiting and retaining a high quality, diverse workforce development, also focused on our enrichment activities and also our workforce. And then when you look at the next three lines, these are statutory required that identifies that we must be able to share any additional millage increase or levied, that has to be prorated to percentage and go to charter schools, so that we are holistic in this approach and we're not just dealing with district managed schools, but charter schools realize additional compensation from this initiative. What we're asking for openly is for that 1 mil, which would increase, would be an annual approximately $126 million. And in this, we have two options to go out for the millage to be a 2-year ask, or the max would be a 4-year. My ask and recommendation today is go for a 4-year ask to this community, which would bring realize $126 million annually within our school district. And if you break that out, that would bring us around $106 million to our school district, and the remaining would go to the charter schools as identified through the $126 million. And we will share that with the charter schools if this is the appetite of the board moving forward. When we look at the big 5 school districts across the state, and we are trying to figure out how they are properly compensating within their district, all of them have had an increase in additional revenue streams in past and operational millage. From Orange, Broward, Palm Beach, Miami, and Pinellas, and you see Hillsborough County, we do not. If you look at the language in every one of these school districts, it's all about being able to make certain they have an opportunity to properly retain and recruit their, a high diverse workforce and a high competent, skilled workforce as well. And you see that they continue to make certain there's a number of different elements that they add related to being able to look at expansion of enrichment opportunities, safety protocols, and also technology within their language. All have passed successfully within their school districts, and it's truly made a difference. This next slide is about our required local effort millage. If we look at what has occurred and where we were in 2009 and 2010, the state identifies what we're required to levy. The state in 09 and 10, we were levying around 5.4% locally from Hillsborough County. If you look in 2012 to 2014, we were at a spike at a 5.6. The state required us to levy. And if you look at what has happened over the last couple of years, we've had a downward spiral where we're currently only levying 3.5% of our community. If we asked for a 1 mil increase, we would still be significantly lower than where we were 10 years ago. And so we're asking our community to step up and to really commit to public education, because as you can be the greatest growth in our school, in the nation with Tampa and a great place to live, you've got to be founded on a strong educational institution that really thrives and becomes not only a state model, but a national model as well. And then when we look at successful referendums, this is a map where all the blue highlights every school district, and there's 21 school districts that has successfully went out and obtained a millage. because they understand, and we're in that part right now, understand you need additional revenue streams in order to properly compete in the state and fill the gaps that we currently exist. And we see that not only are 21 currently in place, but we also have a number of school districts. There's 5 that are going out, either going for an increased millage or they're going for a renewal. There is another county that I spoke to over the weekend that will be added to this list as well. I will not mention their name. They're not ready for it right now, but they'll be going out in the next calendar year, because we talked about how they have a similar problem being able to fill voids and to be able to keep a workforce that wants to stay committed to serving kids in their particular community. And then we talk about, this is a sample model. In no way, shape, or form am I saying that this is what it will be. But if you look at, our recommendation, and this is going to have, significant conversation with with the board and also with CTA. But if you look at it, we would realize $106 million would come to us by an increase of $1 million. And we're asking around 75% of that funding that would go immediately to every employee in the school district. And if we did the 80 million, that'd be around $80 million, and it'd be realized around 5.5%, which would identify that an average increase to our employees would be over $3,500, and an average could be to our non-instructional staff over $1,700. We know this has to be a process where we unpack this in a lot of conversations in executive session and also with CTA, but this could be realized over the 4 years to be able to go to our employees within our school district. And then this is all the staff that it would impact. Everyone in our organization, all 24,000+ employees, from non-instructional staff to instructional staff to leaders, everyone, to be able to show that there's a sense of care in the school district and that we're here to support them continuously as they continue to do a remarkable job of serving children within our school district. So also the funding. So 16% of the $126 million would go to charter schools, and we would be able to accept 84% of the $126 million to our school district. And then this is what we talk about. When we talk about creating and having a better economical impact, we talk about having an A+ school district academically, and we talk about improving outcomes for children. This is an avenue that we can do it. And we look at the home values, because anyone that's a home value, that's a homeowner, will recognize and be asked to participate in this financial. And this goes from $50,000 from a home value to $300,000, and identifies a yearly cost, a monthly cost, a weekly cost, and the daily cost. And while we know that this may be a lot of money to some, this is money that we should be able to commit to helping and properly fund public education within Hillsborough County. And then once again, the impact would be to sustain a workforce, to be able to expand our initiatives, and to be able, in the long run, to be able to make certain that Hillsborough County is recognized through our school district. And one of the things we hear from community going out is about transparency and about trust. I have to recognize the work that our half-cent penny sales tax executive committee has done in the school district. We have expended over $400 million to date in a number of activities to be able to address $1 billion of deferred maintenance. And this is all to be able to make certain that we have been good stewards through the Financial Oversight Committee. We have great leaders that have been actively involved in this process, that meet on a regular basis to look at projects, to prioritize funding. And this is the same mentality that we're asking the community to step and support as well. And this also goes back about accountability, and to be able to find proactive solutions, to be in front about how we will spend every dollar and every cent related to a millage increase, and using a platform where every one of our citizens will see ownership, and every dollar and every cent will be spent in order to create that trust and rekindle that trust within our organization. And then these are ways that in the last 2 years, and some of the questions are, we've realized some financial hardships in the last 2 years. What have we done? Then this team has done, and the board actively involved in this process. I've had a number of strategies involved with energy efficiencies, spending restrictions, looking at organizational controls. We are working and finalizing what we've done from contracts. Right now we've recognized close to $7 million of contracts that we've selectively abandoned or canceled. We'll get that. I know Dr. Hahn asked for that, and that's in the process of trying to get it to you in the next 48 hours. Looking at transportation efficiency, rerouting, transitioning to electric fleets, which we're working on currently right now, and then also reducing positions and finding properties that we may not need or we could potentially sell and move to be better financially within our school district. And then we talk about stewardship, and one of the things where Mr. Davis, we have in 2015, 2016, and also in 2020, you had a number of Gibson reports in the Council of Great City Schools that identified that we were overstaffed. And if you look at this slide here, this slide talks about, and trust me, we all lived it, I lived it, and it talks about and identifies how we have had a downward spiral in the number of employees that we have full-time on our payroll. We can recognize that while we only have 23,815 right now, we have a little bit under 1,000 positions. Even if you put those 1,000 positions into the calculation, you will see in the 3-year we would recognize a downward spiral in the number of employees that we have in our school district, which is a step in the right direction with getting back in balance and properly being able to serve our children every single day. And then this is the timeline. The timeline is today is a seek consensus. Today you have a resolution that is in your notebook today with a PowerPoint. That resolution identifies the language, the ballot language that we're asking to be able to bring on the April 19th school board. We know that you may want to have time to have conversation to look through this, but right now I know it's an expedited time. Every day matters for us to be able to go out and to set up initiatives, to be able to generate money, to be able to message this, to be able to get into our community, which we are working on an active community engagement plan, because what this is going to take is a grassroots campaign to be able to do this. We're very limited about the school district about what monies we can spend and what we can do. In no way, shape, or form could we ever come out and say that we are asking individuals to vote for this. We can only educate our community about the needs of our school district and allow them to make informed decisions of whether or not they support this initiative. I will say that this is, in 2 years, 2 years ago legislation changed. We no longer can get 50 plus 1%, but instead we have to get 60%. It's going to be very difficult to do in a time where where inflation is being realized, and in a time where you have openly political divide. But from our standpoint, for me as superintendent, I'm bringing it to the board because I have to find a solution to be able to attract, retain a high qualified, skilled workforce within our school district. If there's an interest, bringing a resolution to the board on the 19th. We're working with the BOCC, see if we can get that resolution approved on the 20th. It may be very difficult to do because they have transportation going on that particular date. And then transition to get to August 23rd, where we will move from a 7 a.m. to a 7 p.m. general election process that will allow our voters to determine whether or not they'll support this particular campaign. With this said, if we get to a point where this is approved, this team will work tirelessly, without a doubt. And we will work tirelessly to be able to not only go into places where we need individuals to be educated to make this stance, but we will listen, learn, and grow from that process. And along the way, we will continue to take proactive solutions from a financial perspective to ensure that we're fiscally responsible with or without this initiative. But I'm just going to tell you very open and honestly, it's going to be very difficult to properly incentivize our staff in the years to come due to the fact that we continue to have to make hard decisions with our budget to make certain that we're not only in compliance with the 3%, but that we are making certain that we are expanding initiatives within our schools so students really pick us as their first educational choice within this community. At this time, Mr. Connor, anything that you would like to add, sir? Okay, Mrs. Johnson? Mr. McCauley? Okay. At this time, I will try our best to answer any questions you may have and look for guidance and direction from the board.
Thank you, Superintendent Davis, and thank you, Terry Connor, for all of you, for both of you putting this all together. Mr. Porter, if you'll go ahead and start. Member Vaughn?
Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for that presentation. It was spectacular. I think it answered so many questions that I had going into this, and it really outlined things nicely. Will this PowerPoint be available to the public to review in the same format that we're able to?
Yes, ma'am. Our goal is to make certain that we continue to be transparent with it, and we'll start uploading information as needed. And this will be a PowerPoint that we can particularly condense or use as we go in the community.
So it will be on our website?
Yes, ma'am. We can make it available.
There were so many numbers that stuck out to me as we reviewed this. We've continually talked about where we are as far as funding in a national level, but to see that we're 45th in the entire state of Florida out of 67 districts was quite alarming to me when you're talking just statewide. And I know here on page, I believe it was 7, where you talk about, you kind of compare us to you compare us to other counties in our size and scope, and we point out that, out of those other counties, we are per pupil funding, when you look at the entire equation, we're the lowest. Do all of those counties on that slide, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, in comparison, have a millage as well?
Every one of them do.
Okay, so every one of those counties has a millage, and when we're looking at it, at that page 7, if you compare us to, let's say, Pinellas, which, it only looks like a couple $100 per pupil when you equate everything, but I did a little bit of math, and it was actually $234 per pupil. If you average that for 220,000 students, that comes to $51 million a year that Pinellas is bringing in annually in comparison to us, which, I don't know what CTA would say an average step is, or how much, that would cost to raise our employees on a step. But I would imagine that's, 3 times we could raise our employees with that amount of money. So I think that's an important point to make, is because even if you look at it and it only looks like a couple $100, when you multiply that towards how many students we have, that's a huge, huge difference. You answered my questions about whether charter schools would be able to recap this. I also want to point out that one of the reasons that we struggle, because I have a lot of constituents who will say, well, you already get funding from property taxes. Why would you be asking for an additional millage? And I know we've spoken about this quite a lot, but I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. There is a cap that was put on by the state legislation that doesn't allow us to procure a certain amount. We can only get a certain percentage, and once we've reached that cap as a state, we're not able to recoup any more money from property taxes. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Also, I just want to point out that we've asked for more flexibility in our funding when it comes from the state legislation. So a lot of times we've gone to the state legislation and we've asked for ways to be able to have more flexibility in our funding that would also allow us not to have to ask our community for a millage. And even though we've prioritized that, we haven't gotten any extra flexibility, correct?
That is correct, and this is some of the conversation that we had when we were in Tallahassee, is that 10, 12 years ago we had school districts that were not using money as it was intended, so they put categoricals in place. So now I think that what we've learned in the last 2 years with COVID and the need to be flexible with our funding, we need more flexibility with categoricals, and I think that could be something we push next year on our legislative platform, because it's something we need to be able to be recognized and do it in an accountable manner.
Thank you. The other thing that stood out to me was when we looked at the combined inflation and how much, our per pupil has allowed us to raise our salaries to match that inflation. We're looking at, when you said we had over the last 15 years, almost a 33% inflation, and we were able to match that with almost an 8% adjustment. So we're looking at a 25% inflation that we haven't been able to give to our employees. That with that inflation, it's gone up 25%. Once you minus that 8% from the 32, I think that's alarming right there in itself, especially when we're talking about employees who can't even live in Hillsborough County to service our schools. And then the other thing that I wanted to ask about was, well, actually, one point I wanted to make is I noticed that you put that we need to fund our arts, our PE. All of that is very essential. But in talking with Ms. Johnson, when we look at our budget for this year, $49 million of it has been in unfilled vacancies. And when you look at those vacancies, 100 of them are in our ESE department and 100 of them in our Title I schools. So when you look at how we're balancing the budget right now, I mean, it's on the backs of our Title I schools and our ESE students. So I think as we have this conversation about funding extracurriculars like PE and arts, which are all essential to education and to our student success, we also have to be transparent in the conversation that right now, in order to not have a complete shortfall, it's on, again, on the backs of our ESE students and our Title I schools, which are our most marginalized students. So I wanted to point that out, and then I'll finish up real quickly because I know I'm probably going over 3 minutes. I guess I just want to point out that I think that this is important, that even if we put this, we vote to put this on the ballot, ultimately the voters will decide. So really all we're asking is for an opportunity to allow the voters to prioritize if this is important to them or not. As you've mentioned, it's not like, we're asking for their vote, we're just educating them and giving them that opportunity. So I think that's an important piece in the conversation too. If you value democracy, you always leave it up to the voters. And then finally, I'm just curious, I know that we've kind of said, if this doesn't happen, we're not going to be able to incentivize our teachers. But, what else, if we're not able to pass this millage, when you look at the upcoming next 4 years, when we've looked at, our shortfall and the money that we're getting in, even with the per pupil funding, then we have the $15 an hour minimum wage. What, aside from not being able to necessarily incentivize our teachers, do you anticipate? Do you anticipate more staff reductions in that case? Or where other areas do you think that we can cut if this doesn't pass?
There would definitely have to be, our staff allocation model will be reviewed annually to determine whether or not cuts will have to be made. And we will continue to look at our district staff as well. We are trying not to fill, we have 1,000 vacancies currently. We're asking our staff to really review every one of those positions to determine the actual need. A lot of those, when we talk about instructional needs, could be linked to making certain that class size is in compliance, that course electives are added. We'll do everything we can to be able to protect to our schools. However, we may have to make some hard decisions. We want to be able to make certain that raises are continuously for every one of our employees, because we see surrounding counties that do have additional revenue streams. They are making that a priority and leveraging that funding to do so. So all the strategy we talked about with looking at parcels, looking at continued contractual agreements, looking at energy efficiency, all those are ways that we'll continue to make it a reality. But openly, there could be potential adjustments in staff as well.
Thank you so much. And then my closing question would be, I know you have this timeline here, bringing it to the county commissioners on the 20th, and we're concerned because I know they have a lot of competing things on their agenda already. If they were not able to accommodate us, what does that look like for the timeline?
Yes, ma'am. So the only thing it would do is push us back. So if they can't accommodate us on the 20th, then we would have to go to their next meeting. And that for our side of it, it just stops us from being able to start to communicate, to potentially hold community meetings, to start raising money. And every day counts when it talks about raising money. I mean, this is going to be a campaign that has to raise, I'm going to say, over $500,000, $600,000 to make it a reality, and that's on the very low side of it. And maybe it's up to $750,000 to $800,000. So every day that we waste or don't have the opportunity to do that, it puts us in a difficult situation.
Well, thank you. Thank you for answering my questions and for this PowerPoint. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm going to first go to page 27, where you pointed out Orange, Brevard, Palm Beach, Miami-Dade, and Pinellas. Have these counties ever been in a financial crisis like Hillsborough County has?
The only school district that has been in a financial crisis the way we have is Miami-Dade. They realized that when Alberto Carvalho took over, and I think it's 2005. He had to do some of the same actions that I did my first year. and he was in the same situation I was in the first year, where it's unpopular. So he had to, it wasn't as great as ours. This is the greatest financial deficit the state has seen. But he had to make some very tough choices. That's the only school district that identified. But going forward, and I talked to a superintendent over the weekend, and he said that he can't function, he won't be able to stay above the 3% without recognizing, bless you, additional millage within his community. And
So when did Miami-Dade?
it was in 2005.
When did he go out for a millage?
I think that I can't tell you anyone. I don't know that year. I'll have to get that year.
If you don't mind giving
Yes,
that
ma'am.
for me, please.
Absolutely. I know when they went out for the millage, it was all linked to be able to compensate and put teachers on additional and employees on additional pay scale. And then they were at the time they were trying to protect and serve all of their capacity, all of their schools with safety and security, because safety and security categorical doesn't come close to being able to fill that requirement. It's an fully funded categorical.
Okay, because I'm looking at through the eyes of a social worker at this point. We went out in 2018 for a half cent, but it was alongside of a transportation also tax, which at that point in 2018 it was a 8.5 request sales tax increase. It was the largest tax request in the state. And for us, our referendum was for renovations of existing schools, and that was to include transformation schools. And I have to be honest, our transformation schools still look pathetic. So, and I'm going to put that out there. The AC replacements have been, happening. The new school construction has been happening, but still our transformation network still leaves a lot to be desired. And that's where I have some hesitation, because we talk about, our teachers, we talk about giving them the increase in pay, but, at the end of the day, when I look at what we're supposed to be doing with our money and where it's supposed to be going, and I don't see any movement in certain areas, I just have some hesitation. We have Hillsborough County schools that are under capacity, and I've requested over and over again for us to look at these schools, see if we could either sell these schools, utilize these schools, either rent out these schools, because there's a daily expense in these schools where there's electric, water, staff, that we keep dishing out, and how that expense coming back to the district would look like, and affecting our budget in a positive way. Then also we've talked about reduction of staff, but the staff reduction that keeps happening is a direct impact to those who are touching our students on a daily basis. And I've asked to see if we could look at the staff at a higher level in our administration, but the cuts continue to happen at the level that affects our students. And, when we're looking at undercapacity schools, we're looking at our middle schools, several of our high schools, but mainly in our middle schools and elementary schools. And then on page 21, on page 27, here on the bottom where it says property owner costs per millage, it says on the very bottom, homestead, it's estimates based on homestead exception. We have a lot of elderly that this is the retirement capital of the world. And we have a lot of elderly who are not homestead here. They're snowbirds. And according to the property tax, that their property tax will at least be hit 10%, if not higher, because they're not homestead exempted. Now, we've had gas prices go up, affordable housing. I don't even know why they're putting affordable housing in front of affordable housing. Food prices. We have the elderly population that's coming to the state of Florida, downsizing, purchasing new living arrangements, and that property value is sky high. And I've requested a plan for fiscal responsibility and accountability, and plan going forward. And all I hear is we got something, but I have not seen that plan. I haven't seen that plan for us. What it's going to look like. I hear that there's a plan, but I would like to see that plan before we ask the citizens of Hillsborough County to put more money into us. I want to see how we will be fiscally responsible before we put more money. And I want to know that if they put money into this system, that money is guaranteed to go into the pockets of our teachers. That it's not, oops, but that half cent, we still have 7 more years. We just voted on that in 2018. We still have 7 more years to go. I just need some answers to those questions I just asked about, please.
Yes, ma'am.
And thank you.
Yes, ma'am, through the chair. So I would say that over $400 million have been used and levied to be able to address the deferred maintenance within our school district. The oversight committee determines what projects are prioritized and served within our school district. I think they do a really nice job. I can revisit with them and make certain we have a concentration and transformation. I know that every time that I walk schools, every time Shay McCray walks schools, the regional superintendents and Chris and Sue and Shay, that when we see something, I actually send pictures all the time to them to be able to try to address it, because we want our students to feel valued and have an attractive facility and structure where they can feel welcomed every single day, and that they have the resources to be able to compete, whether it be content, whether it be supplies for aligned investigations, for science or manipulatives, for mathematics. We want those to be able to, our students to be able to have the necessary resources, and I can revisit. Today, they are, one of the processes, and when the half cent was approved, is that the executive steering committee would drive what types of projects were being identified or being served. And our job is to leverage capital funding, which we do a good job of making certain that if the half cent isn't in their plan, that it's in our 5-year facility plan, so that we can be able to address it. As relates to financial recovery plan, I know that Ms. Johnson has had a couple meetings. I'll ask Ms. Johnson to be able to have another meeting to answer any questions that may exist. And we want to make certain that the community feels that we are supporting them and that we do and have been fiscal responsible. I can tell you I've lived that life for 2 years, such as you have, that we've made some very tough decisions that are unpopular decisions, and we continue to leverage every resource we have to meet the 3% threshold, at the same token being able to protect our classroom as much as we can. I know from the administrative level we've cut, close to $20 million outside of the schools related to personnel, and we'll continue to look at that, and my cabinet really knows that they have to defend what positions they have and what they'll continue to move forward with, because it's unfair for me to continue to look at schools, but that's the bulk of our personnel. Is it within our schools versus what we have outside of our schools as well? And it comes to a part where we continue to shave, and we're at a place where our hands may be, we're handcuffed to what we can continue to do, because as you speak about, those resources may not continue to be thriving at the school. We want to make certain that if we offer a pathway, a program, aeronautics, whether we offer medical science, whether we offer HVAC, that we do have everything that learner needs and that we say we're offering, so that it is a vibrant program that we continue to move forward with. So, and one thing related to this money is it's very clear what this money is in the ballot language. We have to spend that money of what the ballot language is adopted and approved upon. If we do not, we'll be in violation, so that we'll continue to make certain, if approved, if going to the community, that we will have a website that shows an interactive website that shows how every dollar and every cent is expended, and that it's going to the 3 areas that we've identified that our needs are, so that the community can feel there's trust and value. And then, asking our homeowners to be able to double down financially. I know it's a hard time. You're right. Inflation, gas prices, food prices are all relevant, but we've got to make certain that we have a strong educational experience for our students and be able to keep our best and our brightest teachers and our students in our district.
I think providing a projected budget for this community to see, for our teachers to see, for us as a board to see, is, something that, it's going to help us. I understand providing us numbers, as far as per pupil and things like that, but, for us to get an idea of how fiscally responsible this organization is going to be is what at least I need as a board member, because I need something to hold this district administration accountable to.
Go ahead. Ms. Johnson.
Thank you, Member Perez. Ms. Johnson had a comment for that.
Yes, ma'am. 05 is when he had to make that's when his financial deficit was, and he had to cut positions, renew contracts, all that, and then they went out for additional mill in 2018, and that mill was all about incentivizing staff and then also meeting the security needs from Parkland, because they have 392 schools in Miami-Dade, and to be able to stand up security and come in compliance with the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act, been very difficult to do. They needed to lean on the community to do it.
So he gave himself 13 years to balance that budget before he came to the community and asked for that support.
I'm not certain how long it took him to balance.
You said 2005 to
when he realized
2018.
it. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, Member Perez. Member Gray?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Superintendent Davis, and staff for such detail, and the gravity of this remarkable presentation is very great, and the cost of inaction is, in my mind, dictates the future of quality education for our Tampa Bay community, and sets forth to me a sense of hope that we can continue giving excellent quality education. I was looking at the Florida statutes last night. I shared that with Member Combs, and we really are, the board is set up like a corporation. So what I thought I'd do on my brief time of chatting right now is to look at it through a business person's eyes, and with full respect, I did own a business, but this is a huge business. So I'm going to go ahead and just say this. We, as business members, we know that the Hispanic community and our high needs community is growing so fast, and their needs and their resources, the teachers thereof, will be even greater. We know that the workforce development and encouraging and enhancing and making it a really great workforce in our Tampa Bay area is so needed, and we are also having to make this a necessity from our end to give the Tampa Bay community the workers they need. So we know the mental health, Member Perez, is critical. Every day we don't go through a school. I was just talking to Mike McCauley, Mental Health 101, but our kids are high needs, and those are more resources that are needed. We also know the inflation, 10%, is rising, and I know that the report today, which will come out, will also be tremendous. The safety and security, as we go through, and thank you, Ms. Johnson, for always giving us our, every 2 weeks we get a full financial report. But we know safety and security is very costly, and we will continue to do so. We also know that the COVID has cost us money, and we have to thank the Florida legislative, the federal government, state legislators for making sure that we did have the ESSER monies to mitigate what seems to be hopefully almost done, but probably not. But we thank our state legislation for identifying and giving us the monies that are necessary. We also know, and this goes to Member Vaughn's point, that the exceptional student education, their needs will be increasing ever so more. And how will we address it? So if we go through all these needs, and I'm just really repeating what you said, and then we look at the realities. I just go to one page in this whole entire booklet that really sends the message. So if I look at page 6, which I am, and I look at 2007-2008, where our per pupil spending is $7,000. And then we're at 2021-2022, and we're still at $7,000. All right, 7.5. I'm just rounding. So if we're looking at all these years with all of the list I just said, rising costs on every end of the spectrum, how can we not take action at this cost? And probably the most important tenet of that list is this: how can we sustain, retain qualified teachers in our district to afford the well-being, mental, academic, social, emotional well-being of our students unless we look for additional revenue sources? I am a countywide, Member Perez is also, very much in tune with the schools and the communities. And I realize that the needs are very great and they're not being met. To your point, Member Perez, we have a long way to go. The facial lift of some of the schools definitely would help, but that goes under the Oversight Committee, and I think they're doing a tremendous job. So the realities come to that page where we are still at a same cost effect per pupil funding. We know that revenue streams such as the lottery are not really being realized, as you mentioned, Superintendent Davis. We know that every school, and Sheikh, Member Washington, you do such a great job with getting partnerships for your community. We see the principals trying their best to do fundraisers, and Superintendent Davis, your staff is always employing fundraising plus partnerships to bring in extra revenue, but those are just patchworks. So if we want to sustain this district in a healthy way, which is really the future of our society, our students are our future, we have got to make an intervention. And this, to me, is an intervention. I'm a homeowner. I own my own home. So I understand the costs, and I can appreciate the costs. It is an extra bit of money, and I'm sure you'll explain what that is analogous to in terms of monthly expenditure. But in my mind, the cost for not only our public schools and our charter schools is way too significant for us to ignore this particular resolution that we will be voting on or having consensus shortly. My only two questions are this. Would this new revenue stream receive the same transparency and oversight as our Oversight Committee? And I thank you for recognizing their significant contributions. It has made, their work has made a huge difference in our Tampa Bay area. Are we setting it up the same way, or have we planned that far?
I would say that the half-cent has done a really good job, so while we should be able to duplicate best practices, and I'd be open to be able to make certain we put some type of same platform together to be able to show transparency and to help with the process.
Just for the record, we need to be clear that the committee only is an oversight committee to make sure the money is being spent as intended. This board makes the final decision on how money is spent for the half-cent and for if this passes going forward with that. So the oversight committee is merely a committee that reviews and make sure that money is being spent correctly. They do not make decisions on how the money is spent. That's this board's job.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. My question again, though, is a framework being planned such as it mirrors what we have with the current situation. that we have with our oversight committee. The reason I ask that is because we have had tremendous success in accountability and transparency. And I will say I would hope that we have something that reflects that. Last, how do you plan to message this? Obviously, I mean, we're good listeners. We're here. This is a small crowd, but that's a long PowerPoint. How would this be effectively messaged?
Yes, ma'am.
And will it cost money?
Yes, ma'am. It will cost money. I mean, we will have to drill down this PowerPoint, to really where it's, I guess, community friendly. And from my side of it, I will plan, if approved by the board, I will meet with every principal face-to-face in the coming week to talk about expectations, to give them a one-pager related to the highlights of this initiative, and then give them a drilled down PowerPoint to be able to turnkey with their staff. I'll do a short video for an introduction based on the needs and how the funding could potentially be expended. And then from there, being able to use and leverage that to go into set up, community meetings from now until August 23rd. I personally will be driving this work and asking all of our staff to do the same thing as well, to go out, whether we're attending breakfasts, Rotary clubs, lunches, whether we're doing listen and learn tours at our school facilities, whether I'm going to homeowner associations, whether I'm going to athletic events, you name it. I will make myself available and our team available to be able to communicate this. We already have a list of all the active partners within our school district who we need to engage with immediately, all of our particular vendors openly that we would need to potentially raise money with. But we would have to be able to play a major role to be able to bring this to a reality. This is going to cost, as I said, a minimum of $500,000 up to $750,000 that we'll have to, the community or someone have to help us raise in order to message. And this is not a commercial type of campaign. This is one that's going to be, a grassroots campaign where we're knocking on the doors, educating individuals about the impact of public education, the finances that we need.
Thank you, Superintendent Davis. There's one other thing. You might want to share the ESSER monies. Great amount of money. The public might be thinking we have way enough money, so why are we asking them?
So through the chair, that's a one-time money that we received. We've received ESSER 1, 2, 3 APR funding. A lot of that is only a 2-year stint. It's very explicit for the dollars that we have to be able to spend. It's all driven to be able to address learning loss, to be able to adopt materials, to supplement the content, to be able to expand summer learning, to be able to expand interventions, to be able to focus. There's pockets to focus on workforce development. There's pockets to focus on mental health. So all of that is being used in a sophisticated, proper manner aligned to our strategic plan. Community members can go on our website to be able and pull up the ESSER dashboard to be able to see how every dollar and every cent is being expended, and to show how that we're being very transparent and fiscal responsible with all of those dollars. Those dollars go away in 2023, correct? 24, okay.
Thank you, Superintendent Davis. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Member Gray. Member Hahn?
Thank you. I do have a lot of questions and requests. I do wish I would have had the weekend prior to today to review this because it's a lot of information. And so let me just get started then. So first, I just want to quickly address some comments that were made around the Member Vaughn made some comments around the ESC and Title I positions that are open right now. And I just want to clarify that, they're open not because we haven't been trying to fill them. That has not been a strategy for our finances. They are some of the most challenging positions to fill. So I don't want the public to think that we're balancing the budget by not filling these positions, because correct me if I'm wrong, that's not the strategy.
You are correct. We're trying to fill every position we can to help children.
Right. I just want that clear out there because I don't think it was clear. The other is about the state capping the millage rate, and obviously that is to make sure that when we're in times like we're seeing right now, where property values are just unrealistically through the roof, rents are through the roof, so all that affordable housing, as Member Perez has said, is really not affordable housing anymore. If there weren't those caps at the state level, right now you would see probably thousands, tens of thousands of families on the street because they would no longer be able to afford their homes because property taxes would be through the roof as well. And many renters also, because obviously when landlords have to pay higher property taxes. So just, that is why that cap is there. So I do have a lot of requests for further information. One, and I'm happy to put this in an email as well. One is I'd like to see for 5, if not 10 years, the amount of property tax this district has received in dollars, not percentage. I'd also like to, in regard to the page 5 inflation rates, that is the increase every year, not the actual inflation rates. Am I reading that correctly, or is it the other way around?
Go ahead, Mr. Connor.
So those would be the cumulative for that specific year, the cumulative increase in inflation.
Okay, so that's the increase in inflation, but we don't have the actual rates that they were for that year.
We can get that.
So I'd like that, since you went back to '07, and just the correction on the last column on the right, those last numbers, 12/1/22 at 0.76%. It's actually February of '22, so if y'all want to correct that on your sheets. The other piece of information I would like is a chart around, and for traditional public schools and charters, on the number over the last 5 years of district administrators, school administrators, all instructional staff, non-instructional staff, student counts, and then the total for full-time staff for both traditional and charter. I'd like to see those numbers. I thought there might be one more thing. I'm sorry. There's a lot of information today. I guess my other question is around, first, just to clarify, what you're asking for in the referendum is for employees salaries as well as programs, correct?
Yes,
Salaries and programs, okay. Because anyway. So what is the average step cost each year? If you could, you don't have to give me that now, but that's another piece of information I would like. I'd also like to know,
Non-instructional.
yes, please. And then I'd also like to know, has HCTA or have we done a teacher survey that breaks out their priorities? Sorry. I don't, you have? Would you be willing to share that with the school board? Thank you. I appreciate that. And Mr. Superintendent?
Yes, ma'am.
You also said at the beginning of your presentation today that you were going to go over where specific cuts were made. So if you could also either today or again follow up with instructional and non-instructional cuts that you've made since you've been here, and then the cost savings. Because I know that, and you have it here, sorry, my fingers are all, instead, I don't have my Post-its, so I'm using my fingers, and I only have so many fingers, so. So on page 32, you have all the different buckets for savings, but I'd also like to know to date what we saved, please, yes. And then, the reduction, in all those buckets, if we could have the amount saved.
Yes, ma'am.
So that we can have just a clear picture on how, you came to us and you said, I have a fiscal recovery plan. This is going to set us on the right track for 2 years from now, a year from now, when the ESSER monies runs out. And so I think making this type of decision, we need to know, and so does our community, where we are in that fiscal recovery plan.
Fair.
And that way we can see if, we are on track for what you've put into place.
Yes, ma'am.
So I know that's a lot to ask.
No, that's
But, and I'm sorry, but I need it before the next board meeting because that we're going to be voting on this, as do my members. And, I just also, and maybe Ms. Gray and Ms. Combs could just clear up. Ms. Gray mentioned that she had spoken about this with Ms. Combs, and I just don't want it hanging out there that there was any conversations around this outside the sunshine. So just, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gray, I wanted to clarify. I don't know what she was talking about when you talked about the statutes. I did not have a conversation about this at all with her.
Yes. Member Hahn, would you like to clarify?
Just you had said that you shared some information with Member Combs yesterday around the research you did, and I kind of saw Member Combs' face as to be like, what? So I just wanted to give her an opportunity to just clarify that she had not received information.
Just to be clear, board members, you may not speak with each other outside of the sunshine about matters that you will be voting on. And so this will be something you'll be voting on at the next board meeting. So any conversations need to happen in the sunshine.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I have not talked to any member specifically about this. The only person I've spoken to about this is the superintendent and also Mr. Connor.
I could tell by your face.
Yeah, okay.
I just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
That was clear.
Well, thank you. I'm glad. Thank you for clarifying that too. I really appreciate it. Member Washington.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And also, Superintendent, thank you and your staff for the presentation. Many times we go to the positive side. Let's talk about the negative side as far as what happens if we don't. Because I think the community needs to know if we don't get the millage, what's going to happen. My first question. Okay. So if we don't receive the millage, what's going to happen?
The biggest thing is that we won't be able to compete with surrounding counties. We see that Pinellas County, Manatee, Sarasota all have increased, identified additional revenue source to properly incentivize their staff. And if we do not do something in Hillsborough County, then the individuals will flee. I hear it all the time when I have conversations with our support staff, when I have conversations with our teachers, when I have conversations with our leaders. We're talking about how they're some of the lowest paid related to leadership and also support staff and teachers. So we will lose staff, and in addition to that, we will continue to not be able to offer kindergarten student specials. We will continue to have a 0.2, a 0.4 at our elementary schools related to media, related to physical education, whether it be arts or music teacher, and not someone there more on time to have more than one day that they are able to serve, to let their hair down and actually transition to a class they fall in love with. In addition to that, we will not have an opportunity to have real continuum services of band and music from middle school to high school and elementary, continuum from pre-K all the way to 12th grade. And it's unfair. We were asking band directors at a high school level, because not all of our middle schools have band, to be able to have a thriving programs and to recruit. It's hard to do when a kid doesn't have an opportunity to be exposed to it. And then at the same token, workforce development. Being able to help our local providers be able to recruit students within our school district, it'll become harder. And they just won't be able to be exposed to the cutting edge equipment materials that they need in order to be successful. No different than looking at visualization in visualization in construction. We need that opportunity for our students to be able to compete and be able to compete not only on hands-on with our schools, but also within their facilities as well.
Okay, next question. Do we have any, so what I think we really need to do to be transparent, it's almost like when you have your checkbook, sometimes you itemize so people know exactly where the money going to. Do we have a policy or procedure in place, like when we receive money, we let people know where the money is going to? Absolutely. By accountability?
Yes, sir, absolutely. We share that on a monthly basis through Ms. Johnson and her team at the board meeting. We share that with, we have conversation about how We leverage all of our federal grants. What do we do from a local perspective? Every dollar and every cent is realized and recognized through a monthly update through the board. I know it's I think what, a month behind, but that's when it closes. But our role and responsibility is to make that available to our communities so they can look and determine how we're spending those money and making sure we're spending on the right resources and the right students and the right personnel.
And also I have a couple of comments. You know, we have to be on board with everyone when we're doing something like this, because this is a selling point, and it's just like a salesman. If you don't believe in what you're selling, you won't be sold. So we have to believe in what we're selling in order, and this is being sold for students and the impact of the staff. When I look around the surrounding districts, we have to be competitive salary-wise, because if we don't, we're losing people. I mean, at the end of the day, we're losing people. So we have to be competitive salary-wise. And one of the things, too, I think is important by maintaining high-quality teachers is leadership. Leaderships in schools are very important because they follow the leader of the school. And, you know, many times, like sometimes at transformation schools, you make more money at the transformation school, but if you don't have the right leader, that presents a problem also. So all that comes into play when we want this to be successful, what we're trying to do with this millage. And last but not least, I think we can do it if we work as a team and go, because every board member today had important points about what we need to make this successful. If we can do that, outline what we need so people understand, get out in that community. We got to pump, hoorah, we got to be everywhere, and as many board members as possible can be there to support. I think that's important, because at the end of the day, we have to show solidarity as a group if we want this done. Okay, thank you, Sue. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Member Washington. Just a couple points. I just want to go over some of the concerns that some of the members spoke about. As far as the tax referendum, I feel like there has been so much transparency around that. And when I go into the transformation schools, there are schools that are 30 or 40 years old, and there is so much work to be done, and we're doing that work. I think about my visit last week to Morgan Woods Elementary. That is a school that's, 40 years old, and to do the entire HVAC system takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of money. I mean, overall, yes, some of our schools are not beautiful, but they're also 40, 50 years old, and we are working with each one of them to make sure that we improve them. And when I do see a school that way, I immediately go to Mr. Farkas. He gets somebody out there to look at the school, to fix it, and he is very, very, I think he does an excellent job at listening to those issues with transformation. So I do disagree when members say that our transformation schools are not taken care of. I don't agree. We are trying very hard. Last week alone, I had 3 phone calls about air conditioning, and in each of those events, within 24 hours, that was taken care of. And people have to realize also there's a shortage of the workforce development right now. So to get somebody out there for the ACs is very challenging. So I do really believe that the tax referendum has been done we've been very transparent about it. You can look at every dollar that's spent. You can go out to the schools. We can see through our agenda items, through each of agenda items, where the money is being spent. So I feel that we have done an excellent job in that, and I'm very proud of our district and our staff for doing that. And as well as when we talk about closing and repurposing schools, we have an RFA right now for someone to look at that, to look at what schools need to be closed, what schools we need to readjust the boundaries. That is what we're doing. When the superintendent first came in, that's one of the things he wanted to do. And as a new board member, I was very hesitant about that, because my concern is once we close the school, it goes to a charter. So there's a process that's being applied right now to do that. So when we're saying we're not being cost savings or transparent about that, once again, I disagree with that, because I do think we're doing what we need to do to get to that point. As far as the cost savings plan, I know that I meet with Ms. Johnson regularly, and we're looking at our cost savings, and maybe we need to have that and continue to have conversations around that to make sure we're engaging people. I feel like I've been engaged, and I can see the cost savings plan. At the end of the day, for me, what stands out most is page 4. When you look at page 4, in 1998, we were 27th in the nation for funding. At that time, at 1998, Florida was a pretty inexpensive state to live in. Right now, in 2022, Florida is a very expensive state to live in. The cost for rent, for housing is so expensive. If we stayed on this track, our funding would be almost double of what we receive now. So we can look at the state, the Department of Education, and realize we're not going to get additional funding. The funding is so minimum. And for us to continue to 45th, how much lower can we go? Like I tell people, West Virginia and Kentucky, they receive more per child than we do in Florida. So I think that's a realization that people need to realize. How much do you prioritize public education in the state, in this district? If we don't put the money into our students, then we're going to see a huge increase in crime. We're going to see a huge increase in homelessness. We're going to see many, many challenges because we have to start educating students at a very young age. We have to level that playing field. And then we have to make sure that there is workforce development and there are opportunities. And finally, when you look at our veteran teachers who are ranked 49th in the country, teachers are leaving throughout the country, but in this district alone, people will cross that bridge to go to Pinellas County to work for an extra $4,000 or $5,000. Yesterday, I received an email from a paraprofessional that said to me, I am receiving $11.52. I love my job. I want to stay in this job, but I can go to Target or Walmart and make much more. So we have to think about, where is this money going to go? There is nothing, we are doing the best we can with the little funding that we have. So to have this increase in millage, I think it's a must, because we're not going to get it from the state. We have to hope that our community is willing to put their energy, and I know it's a huge sacrifice for every single family in Hillsborough County. I realize that. It's a sacrifice for my family, but I feel like why I'm here is because I believe in education. I believe in public education, and that's why everybody needs to step up and look at this. And we shouldn't be fighting about this. We should be looking at this and saying, what do we need to do? We do a good job. Nobody's perfect. We do a great job, but what do we need to do to prioritize our students and our children? What are we prioritizing? Jobs, paying people, some type of livable wage to live here. Having art, music, and PE, those arts are so important for students. And finally, building a workforce so that when you do need something done, you can find somebody to work on that. So I think this is very important. I feel like there's been a lot of transparency with everything that we do, and we just need to continue working towards that. Thank you, and I think now it's Member Vaughn.
And then Ms. Snively has a comment.
Okay. Member Vaughn?
Thank you. I appreciate the time. I just wanted to respond to a few things. Thank you for clarifying in regards, Dr. Hahn, to the ESE and Title I. I didn't assume that by talking about how we're balancing the budget on slideshows that have been presented to us in our recovery plan, that those numbers would indicate that's a strategy that we have. I didn't think that needed clarification to understaff ESE and Title I, but I do appreciate if that was confusing that you clarified that. I think what the important analogy is in order, because those positions are very challenging, in order to retain and making sure that we prioritize them, we have to pay and prioritize our staff and our teachers. So I think there is a direct correlation to that, stating, if we don't have the money to incentivize teachers for challenging positions, obviously those are going to be unfilled. And right now, if you do look at the slideshow that I go over weekly with Ms. Johnson to make sure we're on track for our recovery plan, it's glaringly obvious that right now, whether it's not a chosen strategy, the strategy that's the most obvious, not even a strategy, but what's most obvious is we're not able to fill those positions because we're not able to incentivize those teachers. So whether it's intentional or not, that's where, we're not having a shortfall in our budget. But I also wanted to talk about being clear, because transparency is important, and I appreciate all of the board member conversation, because I know within our community that's going to be one of the biggest challenges. But I also think that we have to be very clear, as Mr. Porter said, that we are the ones who make the final decision about the budget. So, I think that we have, and hopefully every iteration of the board has demonstrated responsibility in making sure that we're making the best decisions within our means for our community. Sometimes I worry when we talk about needing more time to demonstrate that we're handling finances responsibly. It indicates, or it says that there's any iteration of the board who wasn't prioritizing or handling finances responsibly. And I think that also takes responsibility off the state, where it should be, in prioritizing making sure that our education is funded and that we have quality education. Also, in regards to the cap, I guess I need some clarification, because when it came to the property tax cap, my understanding is it's strictly for how much schools can recoup from it, not a tax overall. And if we're talking about affordable housing, I mean, I would like to see a cap on insurance rates, because I know that members in my community are actually moving out because their insurance rate have raised their monthly payment $300 or $400. So if we have to choose between, homeowners insurance or property taxes that fund our schools, I hope our state legislation would prioritize education. But aside from that, what I wanted to ask about was when you talk about fundraising, with the community in order to make this a priority, I want to know what that looks like. Oh, and I had one other point. I know we were talking when we were looking at how much each homeowner would pay, and when I run the numbers, unless I'm wrong, it's less than 1% that we're talking about here. When you're looking at a $50,000 house and you're looking at a $25 a year payment, it's almost under a fraction of a point of a percentage, which I think is, when we're talking about inflation and affordable housing costs, that is amazing to be able to take that small of a percentage and have such an impact in our education system. But I just wanted to get more clarity on when you say we have to do fundraising in order to advertise this, what that looks like, who we're talking about fundraising with, what partners we would be doing that with. I mean, I guess that's where I have the most questions, is about this fundraising in order to properly make sure that we're educating our voters about this. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. the Chair. So I'll schedule some time to have those conversations with each board member related to that, and identify what we can and cannot do related to a millage in campaign. I know some of you went through it through the half cent, and some of us have not. But I'll schedule some time to be able to identify what we can levy as a school district, what we can and can't do. At the same token, who we'll be partnering with to be able to generate those funds. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Member Snively?
Good morning. I hope that you can hear me okay.
We do.
Assuming you can.
I can, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So first I want to thank the superintendent and his team for the presentation today. This is all very good information for board members to be considering, as well as anyone in the public who's watching our workshop today. Similar to my colleagues, some of my colleagues, I do have some obvious hesitations and discomfort around a lot of parts of this particular initiative. I believe that one of my colleagues mentioned the fiscal recovery plan and kind of where we are on that. I mean, I think everyone, when Sheikh Washington asked the question about, what happens if we don't do this or if we don't get this, I think everyone is obviously concerned about the management of funds in our school district, as this has been a topic of discussion for over a decade now with regard to management or mismanagement thereof. So there's a lot of concern around the fiscal recovery plan. Where are we? What does that look like? How can we better communicate that to the public? Because I know I only speak for a portion of constituents. I don't speak for all of them when I say that in my opinion, there's not an appetite for another tax right now. There's not an appetite for another tax. And it's not because we don't necessarily care about public education, or we don't want to pay our teachers more. There's a large portion of the constituency that feels that we could do a better job managing what we currently have. And there's a lot of distrust, unfortunately, and doubt that we're doing the best that we can. And I'm not saying that you're not doing the best that you can, Mr. Superintendent and your leadership team. I'm just saying the perception is reality, and the perception is that we are not doing the best that we can with what we have, and that there are other solutions. And speaking with some of the members of the Citizens Financial Council, there are other ways that we can fix our problems, and that we can recover from our financial challenges that we have. And it's a matter of making very difficult decisions to do that. So I'm just, a lot of hesitation around this as a resort. I think this should be the very, very last resort. I think we have other options that we could look towards before we do this. I don't know that we're ready for something like this. There are a lot of questions around the planning process and the timeline and the cost and the effort, and I haven't seen any of that yet. And then I think Dr. Hahn mentioned a survey to see what the priorities are of the teachers, to find out. A lot of times we base our decisions on feelings that we have, or maybe we do talk to teachers. I have several teacher friends. I know we all do, and we have conversations pretty regularly with our teachers. And I know that in any industry, every employee would like to be paid more. However, that's not the only reason that people choose their profession. And so we must look at working conditions and the different priorities aside from pay that attract people to this profession. Just like we would do that for any profession. There's no limitation to what anyone would like to be paid for their profession, but that's not the only reason that people choose this particular profession in education. I think we need to do a deep dive with our teachers and find out what are the things that are important to them, because there are a lot of industries that are highly regulated. I know that Ms. Vaughn mentioned the homeowners insurance industry. Well, insurance companies don't set the rates for homeowners insurance. They are requested and approved and regulated by the state. And therefore, it is, a large part of it is what it is. And insurance companies and agencies have to work with what they are given through the regulatory process. And so similarly, we have to work with what we get from the state. And sometimes it doesn't feel like it's enough, but there are some of the opinion that it is, and that we have to do a better job managing it. So real quickly, because I know my time's probably running out, I wanted to find out what is our current ratio of staff to students. Do we have that number? Because I know what the recommended ratio of staffs to students is based on the Gibson Consulting report that that was produced a few years ago. And thank you for answering about, I think Ms. Combs brought up about undercapacity schools, and so did Member Perez. We still obviously have concerns about our schools that are under capacity, and I'd be curious what other school districts are doing with respect to this as neighborhood demographics change, because that's going to be a constant change in the future as far as having schools under capacity.
Yes, ma'am, through the chair. We'll get the ratio related to instructional staff, non-instructional staff, and overall employee to current students that we serve ratio for you. We can look at, we can get that broken down not only at scale, but also by school if there's a need. We pull that continuously within our district. We'll make sure we share that. As relates to some angst in the community. I don't disagree. I mean, there's been systemic questions related to finances. I can tell you this administration in the last 2 years has been very confident in our abilities to turn this around. We've proven that, and we'll continue to do so. And I think it goes back to pulling some of the analytics that Dr. Hahn asked for today that will allow us to show strength in the recovery plan that we've inherited over the last 2 years to be able to turn this ship around financially. And I think leaning on some of the half cent and some of the consistency and maybe showing that information at the board meeting will allow us to have greater comfort within the community. And I think the biggest thing is just continue to educate our community about what we're doing, where we are, what's working, what's not, and what we're doing differently in order to meet the needs. And then leaning on some of the 2015, 2016 Gibson reports, at the same token, Council Great City School reports about proactive steps that we've taken to be able to drill down and identify some of the strategies that we put in place and accepted some of the recommendations to move forward. So, you know, as it relates to, you know, looking at some of the school districts throughout the state and what they're doing for reconsolidation or repurposing schools, they're doing just that. And I think this is the biggest thing. When I came in, it was part of the initial financial recovery plan was to look at facilities, look at the enrollment, identify the capacity, and figure out the causation of why that enrollment was declining, and determine whether or not we need to repurpose the school, put a new programmatic program at that school, or do we need new leadership at that school, all to determine if to make sure we're efficient with how we spend our money at those facilities. Because I agree, it's very hard to be able to operate a school that has 200 and 300 students when you have, you know, a school that's 2 miles down the road that matches the same number of students, and being able to consolidate those and then reimagine what that other school may look like in our district. So, you know, thank you to the board. We have agreed to connect with WYZ, which is a corporation that does that. We will have a meeting in the very near future to talk about the scope of that work and what we want that to look like, so they can bring us about what every boundary looks like in our school district, what capacity looks like, and then talk about proactive solutions to move forward. And I think that is the right strategy that we must take. And other school districts are openly consolidating schools, and they are repurposing that facility with a new innovative solution, or using it at the district level, or particularly may potentially sell it. You know, those are options we see across the state, and we look forward to bringing that to the board, because we have 60 schools that are under 70% in our school district, and that has to be addressed for many reasons. So I appreciate it. We'll get that information.
And I think Member Perez brought this up earlier, and I think we would like to see the numbers of what does it cost to keep those schools running under capacity. What is it costing us each day to not be at full capacity, and to be over capacity by 170% at one school and under capacity at 70% in another? That is, you know, unfortunately, obviously not very efficient, and not customer friendly as well, when we have those capacity issues. So that's going to continue to be a challenge as our demographics change within Hillsborough County. And the only other thing I wanted to mention was that there is an opportunity, from what I understand, there is an opportunity for our school district to potentially acquire that $9 million that we lost due to our vote on the mask mandate with the governor's office. If we, and there's been a lot of talk about accountability during this workshop, and in our bylaws as a board, it also addresses accountability for the actions that we take. And there is a potential opportunity that if our board acknowledges that that was potentially an error on or misjudgment on our part, that we could potentially get that $9 million back. Have you heard anything of that nature, Mr. Superintendent? Or could you potentially get us some information with regard to that, if that is true, and something for the board to possibly consider, if there's a way to acquire that $9 million that we lost?
Yes, Madam Chair. So I haven't heard that was a possibility, but you know, things happen really fast. So I have a chance to convene with superintendents around the state on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We'll be talking about accountability system. We'll be talking about finances, legislation that has come up, and I will make that an ask at this convening. And we'll have FADS will be there, and their legal representation will be there as well, and their legislative advocate will be there, and I can ask that question. And the Department of Education will come in and have multiple times with us as well, and I can create the ask.
Well, I know that I'm only one person on the board, but I would hope that if there's an opportunity for us to regain that loss, that we would take that opportunity at this juncture, knowing what we know now. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Member Snively. And I don't know what's going on with the phone.
It's a 2G. Sorry.
I think that's for a completely different conversation if we're talking about that. Because that $9 million also is not going to the general fund. That is plus money that individual teachers and individual schools would receive, and some of those schools opted out. So I think that is something more of a political type of conversation that I feel at this time that is not necessary, because we're talking about something separately, and that $9 million does not impact our budget. It impacts the teacher's salary. Next, we'll just finalize. We just have the last 15 or 20 minutes, and we'll have Member Perez,
Member Hahn, and then if the chair has other comments, and Mr. Washington.
So if this passes, when would this impact, or the staff will see the first impact to their checks?
This money, Rhoda, we know what the timeline.
If we pass it,
Go ahead.
if it passed November 2022, yeah, I mean, if it passed, I'm talking about the millage. She's talking about the whole referendum, if it passed, right?
In August.
In August. Then it's going to the vote in August. We shall have the collections in this fall, in the wintertime months.
Okay. And so it's for 2 years. What happens after 2 years?
So it'd be
4
a
years.
4-year ask,
years,
and
okay.
after 4 years, we would have to do the same process, come to the board for potential renewal, being able to show the board how this money has helped us retain our staff, recruit staff, how this money has helped our students be involved in co- and extracurricular activities, and what has we done with the workforce to be able to get students apprenticeships, jobs, externships. And so we would have to build an isolated financial scale. And if that didn't pass after 4 years, then we would revert back to the original scale. But hopefully we know that we're confident we'll be able to prove competence with it and show the value that it's had on our community.
And and I want to relate this to the teacher pay. Transformation schools are not just AC units. So just changing out an AC unit in transformation school, therefore, does not make them, helping the children go to a school when it is aesthetically amazing, and gives them pride in getting to that school. Same thing with our teachers. When they go to the school to teach, when the classrooms are fitted for their teaching and ready for them to teach. And I know that we've been working on that, and same here. When I call Mr. Farkas and, there's something going on, he's right on it. But it's, for us as a board to make some decisions to really look at those schools aesthetically to, make them great schools, for our children. Also, and I know that you've been working on updates as far as the schools that are underutilized, but this board member at least has not received those updates. And it's, what it looks like, financial impact, a positive to this district. It would be great to know, but not only it would help me as a board member to know that positive impact, but also to the public, because when we're just talking about it, we don't know. I don't know that you're looking into that, but if we could bring that up at the board meetings, put it on the agenda and just let us know we're looking at these schools. This is the impact, financially to this district. if we were to, close down the school, move it, stop paying the bills in it, or, move that because, and move that money back into the general fund, because that's what this community is looking at. It's the waste of money that we have on a monthly basis to this district.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd say that with a new consultant and vendor that's looking at all of our boundaries and consolidation, it's going to take months to do that because we've asked them to actively engage every community. So once that report has come back, and we'll immediately engage the board, and that will be in a transparent manner at a workshop particularly. If there's any action that has to go through the community again, it will be brought back to the board to be able to make any recommendations or for you to validate any decisions or recommendations that I bring based on what we're seeing with the findings.
Thank you. Thank you, Member Perez. Member.
Yes, and I'll be brief, just to capsule some of the thoughts. The realities are, with the appetite for extra expenses, are very, very hard to argue, because in the face of everything that we are hearing at this particular workshop, we also are adding the housing crisis as well, which I left out. So big list, but one of the realities that I see, there is a huge appetite for the taking care of our children. Taking care of our children is huge, and guess what that falls on? Many, many times our teachers. So that's the huge appetite. And that doesn't go away. In fact, if anything, it's getting to be more and more desirable. But we just don't want to go ahead and sell this just on getting teachers or paying them more. We want to elevate to get qualified teachers, experienced teachers, take care of our veteran teachers, our staff, our bus drivers, our food service. We have a huge infrastructure. Again, we are players in a fiduciary world with a lot of people that make our schools great and take care of our children, not to mention our social workers, our school psychologists. I mean, we can go on, but this is a necessary type of ask to take care of the children in our Tampa Bay community. And by the way, the real estate office, they want best schools. How do you think our schools are going to look if we don't entice them? And again, Member Perez, yes, they need the facial wherewithal to look good, but our real estate folks are very concerned with our schools, as they should be, because that's how they sell homes with good schools. So we are the largest employer. All of our vendors are concerned. We have a lot to really, how do you want to say, make right to our entire community when we ask for such a raise in their property tax. But I do want to say, when we talk about financial rightness and have we really done all the work that we should, you all are reminded that in 2016, previous to that, Mary Ellen Ilya, superintendent, we had the Gates Grant, and yes, we had a tremendous amount of extra employment. I started teaching in 1976, but 1985, under Superintendent Leonard, we also had huge financial difficulties. Too many staff members, too high of a bureaucracy. Remember, Washington, you remember all that when we had to do more right sizing. But at any rate, Superintendent Akins did decrease the staff and the teachers greatly. And then under Michael Kemp and Superintendent Davis, we further decreased our staff, making very hard choices. To the point where we lost some of the culture of our schools, losing art teachers, journalism teachers. It was hard, and it was very painful what Superintendent Davis had to do. And every one of the board members heard about that, and we also felt it. Not really last, if you go through your audits, go through 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, we have had excellent reports, forget 2016, 2017, from CAFR, from KPMG, and from the Council of Great City Schools. If you read through those audits, which I was trained to do by our previous CFO, it was as boring activity as you can ever remember, but the words and the tenets of those audits speak to every one of the remarks that are being made here. We have had fantastic high marks on audits from various independent audits. So, if you all read that, then you have the edification right in front of you that we did the moral, the academic time spent in changing our fiduciary responsibility to becoming maybe not as tight, but very, very specific and very strategic, and we are right-sizing. I just want to remind, because that is important. That's factual. That's not affective. That's factual. So, if we read those audits, I think every one of us will feel a little bit better and sleep better tonight. Last, when we look at what is the great ask, what is the great concern, there's so many right now. We're all kind of confused. You know, we have all these social, cultural situations, but one of the biggest asks is that we take care of educating our very young kids, and we're talking before pre-K. And the monies and the training of teachers and the actual teachers to afford and deliver that education is critical, because that sets the stage for better learners and successful graduation and workforce and or college development. So this, I look at this, and I'll charge you with this task, Superintendent Davis. I would want a lot of emphasis on our early childhood education.
Yes, ma'am.
And that is critical. So those are just a few of my comments. Thanks.
Thank you, Member Gray. Member Hahn?
Thank you. I appreciate it, Chair Combs. There's a lot of wants as to how this money should be spent, talked about today. Lots of wants that go far beyond what you talked about. So that is a concern. Salaries, programs, early childhood, transportation. I mean, it's just, you know, so again, this is very different than the last referendum, which was very specific on how it was going to be spent and very easy to follow the money. This can go into a very large budget, which others in the community have called a black hole, and it's hard to trace. So you talked about, and Ms. Graven talked about an oversight committee. What was the verbiage in the 2018 referendum that went out? I wasn't on the board at that time. Was it specific around that?
Yes, it was, and we can provide that to you.
Okay. So I guess I don't see that in this, but also at that time, and again, I wasn't on the board, so I had a very different perspective of things. Once you're on the board, that changes. There was not a lot of confidence in the leadership or the school board at that time, and that's where that came from, if I remember correctly. And so they wanted this oversight committee to build confidence in the community around supporting the referendum. And so, you know, we have that committee, and I've sat in on many of those meetings, and they do a wonderful job, and I am very respectful of their role and their position in the community, and we're fortunate that they want to serve in that regard. We also now have a financial oversight committee, and now there's talk of yet another financial oversight. I'm just kind of curious, looking at my other board members, how do you feel about constantly, I mean, it kind of speaks to the fact that, do people not have trust in our ability to manage the budget, which is the main part of our job? So I'm concerned about that. So I'm just going to kind of leave that out there. I think that is a concern. Also, I would ask, you had mentioned in one of your slides that there would potentially be $80 million earmarked or spent to increase salaries. And then Ms. Perez brought up the point about what happens in 4 years. You know, so what if this isn't renewed in 4 years? We're down the road, $80 million plus spent of reoccurring. Do you have a plan for that? And if so, could you share it?
Yes, ma'am. So if going in, we would have to educate every employee that a scale would be built on on, let's just say $80 million to be able to touch all employees in this district. They'd have additional scale, and it'd be isolated to what the current scale is.
Can I just stop you right there just to clarify something? I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
So that's 80 million that you're saying on our current employees, yet we have over 400 openings. So it's really 80 plus, but go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. So it would be a salary schedule built for those 4 years, recognizing that money every year. If it doesn't get renewed, it would go. All the employees would go back to their original step that they were on, and that's how many school districts do it. That's the only way to do it.
So they would have to go back. Let's say they were making $60,000 by the end of the 4 years. They could potentially. What is the potential loss in salary if they had to go back all those steps over 4 years? Do we know?
It wouldn't be steps, it would be the dollars that Mr. Davis presented that should.
Yeah. So the average that we looked at, and it has to be negotiated through it, would be 5%, $3,500. It'd be every year they'd get $3,500, and at the end of the 4 years, if not renewed, they would just go back. So if they would make in $47,500 as a brand new teacher, they would make that $3,500 every year. That would be realized on their salary, and they would. Yes, ma'am.
So they'd have to lose 14,000. And that is a big. I mean, I can't imagine losing $14,000 of my salary. I know that is a big if. I understand that, but I just want people to understand that that's what would happen if it didn't get renewed. We would, and the union is okay with that because that's what I'm concerned about, sir.
It's all about transparency.
Yes.
They have their salary, and then designated right on their pay stub would show the millage increase that they were getting based upon the vote.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just want to make sure that that our teachers understand that this is a potential.
And what I was saying is that it would be something where we would designate it, and we've looked at the models in other districts, where on our salary stub, it would show what my salary actually is, and we would designate the increase that they were getting based upon the millage. So that would be very clear and transparent on every single pay stub that every employee in this district got, and they know that that is contingent upon the voters of Hillsborough County, that we believe that they want strong public schools and they want to do what's best by the students in this district.
Okay. I just wanted to get your input. That's important to me.
You got it. Thank you.
Make sure that conversation has happened.
I appreciate it.
I appreciate that. So what is the total, if this does pass, what's the total amount of the millage? What would it be? It would go. It's like at 4.6 now, so it would be around 5.6.
So
our portion of the.
So the total amount in dollars?
No, in the actual millage. You said you're going to go up 1 mil. So right now we're getting about 4.6 mil.
Yeah, we're getting our required local effort is around 3.6 currently.
3.6. So it would go up to around 4.6.
So an additional 1 mil would put us at around 4.6.
Okay. So, oops, sorry. On page 27, that chart, could you create that for a 4.6 mil so we can see the impact on the cost?
We can.
Thank you. Because I think, this just shows it going up 1 mil. And look, I do want to be sensitive to how, on how we're presenting this to the community. I don't want the message to be that if you don't support this, you don't care about kids and you don't care about schools. Because the reality is we have a lot of people struggling right now with everything that's going on in our economy. And even $25 more a month to families living in a piece of property that's valued at $50,000, that $25, is, I don't know what teachers' homes are. It's not fair to say every teacher is living in a home of, I don't know, I know everybody is struggling. And I am concerned about our most vulnerable citizens and families who are, we know what 50% of our families are living below the poverty rate. And so in Hillsborough County. And so I just don't think it's fair to say because people are trying to put food on the table and a roof over their families' heads and gas in their cars so they can continue to go to work, that they don't care. I think that's that is unfair to say. I don't know what everybody's going through right now, but so I just want to be careful of how we, say that. I don't want people to be put in a position of, feeling that way, of being marked as somebody who doesn't care about kids or schools. Because there's a lot that people are going through right now around expenses. And so I just want us to be careful when we throw comments like that out there, because we don't know what our neighbors are going through. We don't know what our families are all going through, and including our teachers. We don't know that. There may be teachers that really do need a pay raise, but to support this may hurt them financially. So I just don't want people to be made to feel as though they don't care. I think that's just not really, being mindful of and looking outside of our own situation. So I was very concerned about the reoccurring cost, and so I appreciate the extra time. Thank you, Chair Combs. I appreciate it.
Okay, and we're about 7 minutes over, so we're just going to have some final comments. Member Washington, do you have final comment? Okay, I just a couple things, and then we'll be closing. I think one of the reasons that, the folder came out at the time that it did and gives us this opportunity to reflect is because we didn't want this information out ahead of time. I don't think this thing is working properly today. Is it working properly?
Good, we got you.
So just
We
a
got
couple
you.
things. I think that we have.
No, it's not.
It's just not working.
You're right.
It just keeps clicking on. Okay.
I think you're right.
Been happening all morning, so finally. Anyways, just a couple things. I know that we've heard from CTA, and we'd like to hear more from CTA and exactly where they stand on this, as well as the Financial Advisory Committee. And, when we do talk about salaries, and I agree with what you said, Member Hahn, but we also have to look at the rate of inflation and the cost of living for teachers as well, and how we really are so behind. And when we talk about a member talked about the working conditions. There is no question that working conditions have not improved for teachers. I mean, the expectations are higher than ever. The testing, the amount of violence, the increase in fighting, the social and emotional, all the needs that children need now, there is no question that the working conditions in the schools have not improved. Teachers are expected to do more. And paraprofessionals, as well as nutrition staff. I see just the other day I was at Sickles, and the entire nutrition department has to feed, feed a school of over 2,000 students in 2 periods. So the working conditions have not improved. So we have to look at that. Teachers and paraprofessionals and everyone is working harder. They're working much harder, but the salaries have not increased. When you look at the rate of inflation and the cost of living in Tampa specifically have increased tremendously. So that's something that I kind of wanted to mention. And finally, I know this folder, we received this at a timely manner. And I know there's a lot of questions and there's a lot of reports. And I also want to say we have received many, many clean audits. So I think sometimes when we say things out there and it makes people start questioning things, there is no question. There's nothing going on nefarious in our district. It's just that the needs are high. We're not receiving the money from the state funding. We can see that over the last 20 years. Everyone is looking for grants. The needs are higher, but what we're receiving is less. So we have to look at how are we going to maintain a quality education, maintain our teachers, and maintain preparing students for life when we're not receiving that type of money at the state funding, and how we have to maybe look at this locally. I think we have a lot of questions. I think there's a lot of reports, and I think people have to really look at this individually, each board member, and arrive at a conclusion on their own, what is going to be best for our district. And I want to say thank you, and I know, Superintendent, you have some closing comments, and I want to thank you and your cabinet, everyone, for putting this together.
Very much, and this staff has done a wonderful job. Terry Connor has been the lead point on this, and we appreciate him as well. But this entire cabinet and staff, we thank him. And from our side of it, we will get all the information as fast as we can, and we'll get it. A lot of it we already have to make sure that you can make an informed decision. And I want to make certain that we also understand, when I use this slide here related to where we were in 98 to where we are in 2020, this was inherited by the current leadership in Tallahassee. They are working to get us out of that process, and we've had a great banner year financially. So I just want to make certain that we know that we're all working together to be able to properly support education, especially in Hillsborough County. So, you know, we got to be a game changer. We will continue to be fiscal responsible, but I just need the resources to be able to compete. So we'll do that every single day. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.